Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have another great show for you tonight with film clips from Jorge Cervantes and news clips with Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions, our Attorney General of the United States, and others. Standing by in the wings, Mr. John Cornett is ready to play some tunes. Hey, John.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Hanging in there, bro.
Hey, I can relate to that. And right next to me is that character, Mr. Casper Leach.
And tonight, the role of Casper Leach is being performed by Ringo Starr.
All right. He lives in a yellow submarine. We have a long hemp news segment, lots of news about medical marijuana and industrial hemp. But first, we will bring on the infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
Okay, last week, a three-judge panel for the 10th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Denver, Colorado, upheld a lower court's dismissal of Nebraska and Oklahoma's attempt to overturn Colorado's recreational adult use cannabis laws. The judges ruled that private landowners, law enforcement officers, and neighboring states that claimed harm from cannabis legalization cannot use the Federal Controlled Substances Act to challenge California's legal recreational adult use market regime. The judges also closed the door on Nebraska and Oklahoma pushes to intervene in the case after their similarly directed complaints to the U.S. Supreme Court were denied a hearing. In March of 2016, the U.S. Supreme Court decided by a 6-2 vote not to take up Nebraska and Oklahoma's joint lawsuit, which was filed in 2014. Out of Washington, D.C., a new bill, the Compassionate Access, Research, Expansion, Respect States Act, or the CARES Act, formerly known as the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment, before that as the Rohrabacher-Frank Amendment, now also known as the Rohrabacher-Blumenauer Amendment, co-sponsored in the Senate by Senator Cory Booker, a Democrat from New Jersey, Senator Mike Lee, a Republican from Utah, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, Democrat from New York, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, Republican, and Al Franken, a Democrat from Minnesota, Senator Lisa Murkowski, a Republican from Alaska. In other words, a bipartisan bill, and it will take 4 major actions to protect state medical marijuana programs. U.S. Attorney General Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions opposes this bill. The bill would prohibit the Department of Justice from interfering with state medical cannabis laws and allow the Veterans Administration doctors to recommend cannabis in legal states, expand research on cannabis, and remove cannabidiol, or CBD, from the Controlled Substances Act. Senator Gillibrand of New York, in a series of tweets posted earlier today, said, quote, "Today we reintroduce the bipartisan CARES Act to finally modernize our laws around medical marijuana. Current rules around medical marijuana are a case of outdated ideology getting in the way of helping families that desperately need it. Studies suggest that marijuana can alleviate many serious symptoms, and we owe it to our families to be able to do more scientific research," end quote. New York Senator Gillibrand wrote. A majority of states now have comprehensive medical marijuana laws on the books, and a supermajority of Americans support letting patients access cannabis without fear of arrest. It's well past time for Congress to modernize federal law so that people with cancer, multiple sclerosis, post-traumatic stress, don't have to worry about Jeff Sessions sending them and the DEA to arrest them or their suppliers. The diverse group of lawmakers behind this new legislation shows that medical cannabis is an issue of compassion, not partisan politics. If state rights are not protected, over 2 million patients could be left with only the illicit market to find their medicine. According to a recent letter to Congress, Attorney General Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions is asking congressional leaders to undo federal medical marijuana protections within the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment, a bill which has significant bipartisan support in Congress. The Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment, now the Rohrabacher-Blumenauer Amendment, protections prohibit the Justice Department from using federal funds to prevent certain states from implementing their own state laws that authorize the use, distribution, possession, and cultivation of medical marijuana. In Sessions' letter, he argued that the amendment would inhibit the Justice Department's authority to enforce the Controlled Substances Act. In this new letter to Congress, the Attorney General wrote that marijuana use has, quote, significant negative health effects, end quote, arguing that it is, quote, linked to increased risk of psychiatric disorders such as psychosis, respiratory ailments such as lung impairments, and such as IQ loss and substance use disorder and addiction, end quote. Sessions' letter also stated, quote, I believe it would be unwise for Congress to restrict the discretion of the Department of Justice to fund particular prosecutions, particularly in the midst of a historic drug epidemic and potentially long-term uptick in violent crime. The Justice Department must be in a position to use all laws available to combat transnational drug organizations and dangerous drug traffickers who threaten American lives, end quote. Boy, he is out of touch. Republican representative from Orange County, California, Dana Rohrabacher, said, quote, Mr. Sessions stands athwart an overwhelming majority of Americans and even sadly against veterans and other suffering Americans who now know conclusively they're helped dramatically by medical marijuana, end quote. Our own Representative Earl Blumenauer from here in River City, Portland, Oregon, a member of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus, remains confident that cannabis industry protection will survive attempts by Sessions to kill it because of the broad bipartisan support for the measure within Congress. According to Representative Blumenauer's press secretary, Nicole Esperance, she says, quote, it's definitely something to be alert to, but when you look at this administration in constant whiplash, they say one thing and do another, so it's hard to take one action as an indication of a broader policy issue, end quote. Judge Hudak of the Brookings Institution characterized the letter's arguments as a, quote, scare tactic that could appeal to rank-and-file members or to committee chairs in Congress in ways that could threaten the future of this amendment, end quote. Sessions' letter, along with the signing statement for President Trump, indicates some skepticism of medical cannabis protections. Says, quote, should make everyone openly question whether candidate Trump's rhetoric and the White House's words on his support for medical marijuana was actually a lie to the American public on an issue that garners broad bipartisan support. Last year, then U.S. Senator from Alabama and now U.S. Attorney General Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions said, quote, good people don't smoke marijuana, end quote. Sessions' newly formed drug task force will introduce policy changes and issue recommendations, and it's due to be released on July 27th. And of course, we'll be reporting that here. The war on drugs is a war most of the country, unlike Attorney General Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions, would like to end. Yesterday, National Football League NFL player Johnson Batamosi of Detroit, Aquan Bolden of Detroit, Malcolm Jenkins of Philadelphia, and Glover Quinn of Detroit have written a column that advocates against what could be a renewed war on drugs. This op-ed piece was posted on CNN.com and is a response to Attorney General Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions' request for prosecutors to seek the strongest possible sentences in all situations, including nonviolent drug offenses. The article says, quote, Mr. Sessions recently announced the seismic shift in criminal justice policy and now puts himself, the Justice Department, and the Trump administration in direct opposition to what so many Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, and liberals, red states and blue states have been clamoring for and acting on. Criminal justice reform that preserves families, saves money, and protects communities. The NFL also wrote, quote, few Americans are proud of the fact that our prison population has skyrocketed over the last 2 decades, even as crime rates have been on a decline. The daily prison population in this country is more than twice as large as the number of people who attend every NFL football game on any given Sunday in the fall. End quote, the opinion piece added. Between 2010 and 2015, according to research from the Pew Charitable Trust, using FBI crime data, the 10 states that reduced their prison population the most saw their overall crime rates drop by an average of 14.6%, while the 10 states with the fastest growing prison populations saw a less significant 8.4% reduction in crime. So much for Jeffrey Sessions' claim that crime rates are increasing. Down south in California, with the passage of Proposition 64, California's looming legal recreational cannabis market could total more than $5 billion in annual sales, according to a study by the University of California's Agricultural Issues Center. The university study, which was contracted by the state's Bureau of Marijuana Control, forecasts that legal recreational sales will make up 61.5% of California's total marijuana market, and legal medical cannabis about 9%. About 29% of all cannabis consumers may stay in the illegal market, according to this study. In 2016, medical cannabis sales accounted for about a quarter of California's $7.7 billion annual yield from the combined legal and illegal marijuana markets. The study estimated that cannabis market for recreational use or adult social use will reduce medical marijuana sales from $2 billion to about $600 million. The study noted, quote, "We projected that when legally allowed, slightly more than half of the demand currently in the illegal use segment, adult use segment, will quickly move to the legal adult use segment to avoid the inconvenience, stigma, and legal risk of buying from an unlicensed seller. State officials developing the regulations hope to gradually persuade the vast majority of cannabis users in California to go through the legal market," end quote, said Lori Ajax, director of the state's Bureau of Marijuana Control, the group that hired the center to look at the new rules. Ajax said, quote, "It's going to take some time. While it's unlikely that everyone will come into the regulated market on day one, we plan to continue working with stakeholders as we move forward to increase participation over time," end quote. Aggregate annual sales in medical marijuana were $2 billion in the state of California last year. They estimated that is about 25% of the total state marijuana sales. And the sales in the illegal market, they estimate at $5.7 billion. And the analysis estimated California's regulations for the adult use and medical marijuana sectors are expected to be in force by January 2018. Also down in California, California Attorney Jessica McElfresh was charged with multiple felonies, including conspiracy to commit a crime, obstructing justice, and manufacturing a controlled substance by the San Diego County District Attorney. The 15-page felony complaint filed by the District Attorney, Bonnie DeMantis, accuses James Sladek, two of his executives, and Attorney McElfresh, who is Sladek's attorney, of conspiring and manufacturing a controlled substance, alleging the attorney helped Sladek cover up a cannabis concentration manufacturing operation. According to Henry Wachowski, an attorney from San Francisco, he says, quote, "This is clearly a vindictive prosecution against this attorney arising from the court's order that they return the funds that they had seized. As bad as that in and of itself, this is clearly calculated to send a chill to attorneys that defend cannabis businesses that they can become targets," end quote. Defense attorney Mark Carlos said, quote, "At the outset, I would say it was always very difficult to charge an attorney for legal advice being requested by the client. The attorney must act in the best interest of the client. Sometimes that means safeguarding their interests so that they do not incriminate themselves. That being said, the attorney has an ethical duty to act within the ethical canons of the state bar and applicable laws. An attorney cannot actively engage in activities which obstruct justice. Under these circumstances, the DA will have to prove that McElfresh acted with criminal intent in conspiring to violate the law. This is extremely difficult given the ethical duties of an attorney," end quote. Shabnam Malik of the National Cannabis Bar Association, or NCBA, said she was shocked that McElfresh was being prosecuted. She said, quote, "This is extraordinary to me. I've never heard of anything like this happening before." Portland's own attorney, Leland Berger, an Oregon-based member of the National Cannabis Business Attorney Session, said he was concerned that, quote, the prosecution coming following her successful obtaining the return of funds gives the impression that the prosecution is retaliatory. An attack on any of us is an attack on all of us, end quote, Berger said in an interview with the Marijuana Business Daily. In a statement, the National Cannabis Bar Association said it's gravely concerned about the chilling effects that the handling of this case may have on attorneys serving the cannabis industry clients, possibly resulting in the inability for this new industry to access competent legal services. Several state bars have recently acknowledged the importance of ensuring that state lawful cannabis businesses have access to legal services. Access to legal services is necessary to help the cannabis industry comply with the myriad regulations designed to keep the public safe and marijuana out of the hands of children. Prosecutions like this one will undoubtedly serve to deter lawyers from representing clients in the cannabis industry for fear they too may be prosecuted, end quote. The case against McElfresh may go all the way to trial, but the case could be dismissed before trial. Out of New York City, New York, the enactment of medical marijuana laws is not associated with increased rates of problematic cannabis use, according to data published online in the journal Addiction. Columbia University investigators assessed cannabis use trends in states in the years following marijuana medicalization. They reported, quote, no significant change in the prevalence of past month marijuana use among adolescents or young adults, those age 18 to 25, end quote, following legalization. They also found no evidence of increased cannabis abuse or dependence by either young people or adults. The states with largely unregulated medical programs were associated with increased self-reported use by adults age 26 and older, but states with stricter programs were not. The study's findings are consistent with those of numerous other papers, reporting no uptick in youth marijuana use or abuse following medical marijuana regulation. The findings contradict those of a recent widely publicized paper in the Journal of the American Medical Association Psychiatry, which speculated that medical marijuana laws may increase the prevalence of cannabis use disorder among adults. This new study, loose regulation of medical marijuana programs associated with higher rates of adult marijuana use but not cannabis use disorder, appears in Addiction this month. According to the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, an estimated 21.5 million Americans struggled with substance abuse disorder in 2014. Nearly 80% of those individuals specifically battled alcohol use disorder. Interestingly, cannabis may be a way to help those who are struggling. In 2015, a study published in the International Journal of Drug Policy found that cannabis use reduces the consumption of tobacco, alcohol, and prescription drugs. The study's findings suggest that the use of cannabis may play a harm reduction role in these substances and may have implications for abstinence-based substance use treatment approaches. In fact, I have a large collection of hundreds of antique medical marijuana containers that are more than 50, sometimes 150 years old. And Park Davis, Eli Lilly marketed cannabis to treat addiction of opioids, chloroform, cocaine, and alcohol delirium tremens. So its long-term use to help people get off these other substances is well documented. Dr. Donald Abrams, a professor and chief of the hematology-oncology unit at the San Francisco General Hospital, supports cannabis treatment but says, quote, given the safety profile of cannabis compared to opioids, cannabis appears to be far safer. However, if a patient is already using opioids, I would urge them not to make any drastic changes to their treatment protocol without close supervision by a physician, end quote. In regards to the use of opioids, the study by Lucas and Walsh found that 63% of people were able to replace their prescription drugs, including opioids, benzodiazepines, and antidepressants, for cannabis. In regards to opioids specifically, 30% of people were able to replace their painkillers with cannabis. 16% used cannabis as a substitute for benzodiazepines, while 12% used it in place of their traditional antidepressant medications. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, more than 15,000 people died from prescription opioid-related overdose in the United States in 2015. Nearly 13,000 people died from heroin-related overdoses in the United States in 2015, according to the CDC. An estimated 22,000 people die from alcohol liver disease and alcohol-related liver cirrhosis each year in the United States, according to the CDC. Next story is from Denver, Colorado. Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper signed legislation, Senate Bill 17, permitting physicians to recommend cannabis therapy to patients suffering from post-traumatic stress, or PTSD. This is the first new qualifying condition to be added to the state since the state legalized medical cannabis in 2001. Members of the Colorado Board of Health had previously rejected efforts to include PTSD as a qualifying condition, opining that sufficient evidence did not yet support its efficacy. Well, that's obviously changed. Out of Vermont, Vermont Governor Phil Scott signed legislation, Vermont Senate Bill 16, expanding the state's 13-year-old medical cannabis program. The measure permits physicians to recommend cannabis therapy to patients with Crohn's disease, post-traumatic stress again, and Parkinson's disease, and expedites access for patients with cancer or terminal illness. The bill also expands the number of permissible dispensaries in Vermont and allows existing operators to open one additional location each. There are over 3,800 residents currently enrolled in the state's medical cannabis program in Vermont. The new changes in law take effect July 1st. Out of Tallahassee, Florida, members of the House and Senate have approved legislation to implement Amendment 2, a voter-initiated constitutional amendment that was passed by 71% of the people last November, regulating the use of medical cannabis. Florida's Governor Rick Scott had pledged to sign the bill into law. Lawmakers passed the measure on the final day of Florida's special legislative session. The measure prohibits patients from inhaling herbal preparations of cannabis, among other restrictions that proponents say violate the initiative's original intent. One of the measure's key backers, Orlando attorney John Morgan, who largely funded the largest portion of that initiative, has said that he intends to sue the state of Florida over the proposed changes. Under the law, patients diagnosed with cancer, epilepsy, glaucoma, HIV, PTSD, ALS, Crohn's disease, Parkinson's disease, or multiple sclerosis, or who suffer from chronic pain related to any of these diseases, are eligible to receive a 70-day supply of cannabis-infused oils or edible products from a limited number of state-licensed dispensing facilities. Florida's medical access law must be, by that voter initiative that was passed last November by 71% of the people, be implemented by October. Out of Parma, Italy, oral cannabis administration is safe and effective for the treatment of chronic pain conditions, according to clinical data published in the Journal of Pain Research. The Italian researchers conducted a retrospective case series analysis assessing the use of cannabinoids for intractable pain in a cohort of over 600 patients. The study subjects were typically over the age of 60 and consumed cannabinoids via infused tea. The researchers reported that no subjects in the study complained of severe side effects and that relatively few patients discontinued cannabis treatment. They concluded, quote, "It can be stated that the treatment seems to be effective and safe in the majority of patients," end quote. In 2015, the Italian government authorized several debilitating conditions, including chronic pain, glaucoma, Tourette's syndrome, multiple sclerosis, HIV, and certain types of epilepsy. In January, an extensive literature review by the United States National Academy of Sciences acknowledged that, quote, "conclusive or substantial evidence exists for cannabis's efficacy in patients suffering from chronic pain, among other conditions," end quote. This study, Cannabis and Intractable Chronic Pain, an explorative retrospective analysis of an Italian cohort of 614 patients, appears in the Journal of Pain Research. We here at Cannabis Common Sense and our political committee campaign for the restoration and regulation of hemp, and our nonprofit, the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, and Hemp News want you to know that in regard to the new President's Commission on Combating Drug Addiction and Opioid Crisis first meeting today, June 16, 2017, that tens of thousands of lives have been adversely impacted by the nation's opioid epidemic. We must use every tool at our disposal to fight this crisis, and marijuana provides a safe and effective alternative for many of these patients, and it's vital that the committee does not ignore this important evidence in its discussions. Given the makeup of the commission, which includes a number of longtime drug warriors such as New Jersey's Governor Chris Christie, former Rhode Island Representative Patrick Kennedy, and former Office of National Drug Control Policy staffer Bertha Madras, it's crucial that citizens, advocates, doctors, and researchers alike elevate the science and data which shows marijuana as an effective tool in combating the opioid crisis, not the rhetoric of the failed war on drugs. Permitting marijuana sales to be regulated by licensed state-authorized distributors rather than the black market or other various illegal drugs are available, including opioids, would likely result in fewer, not more, Americans abusing other illicit substances. Out of Carson City, Nevada, Nevada Governor Brian Sandoval signed legislation, Nevada Senate Bill 396, expanding the state's hemp law to permit broader commercial cultivation of the crop. The new law permits regulators to license growers to engage in hemp cultivation and to produce edible products derived from hemp. Under a 2015 law, hemp could only be produced as part of a university-sponsored pilot program. In Illinois farmers may soon be able to add hemp to their rotation. Illinois Senate Bill 1294, an industrial hemp bill sponsored by Senator Toy Hutchinson, a Democrat, which passed unanimously in the Illinois Senate, would allow the Illinois Department of Agriculture to license farmers to grow industrial hemp. The bill, initiated by the Illinois Stewardship Alliance and the Illinois Farmers Union, is a collaboration with the Illinois Environmental Council and the Illinois Farm Bureau in an attempt to restore hemp in Illinois. The legislation would amend the Illinois noxious weed law to allow farmers to grow hemp to be processed and sold for its fiber, seeds, and oils. Nearby in North Dakota, over the past few years, North Dakota's hemp production has grown into the third largest in the nation, behind Kentucky and Colorado. This year, there were 3,124 acres cultivated right now in North Dakota for industrial hemp. In 2016, just 70 acres were planted. The boom brought interest from several processing plants scheduled to open the harvest. At the moment, Healthy Oilseeds, located there in North Dakota, is the only processing plant certified to handle hemp in the state. The processing plant offers milling, roasting, and cold press. According to Healthy Oilseeds President Roger Goises, he said, quote, "There's a possibility the new plant could be built yet this year in an effort to get in on part of this session's production. I'll continue to expand the number of acres permitted if producers have the opportunity to sell the product. If I'm going to permit 20,000 acres, I'm going to check with processors to make sure they're able to handle it." North Dakota's Agriculture Commissioner, Doug Goring, said, quote, "I anticipate we could expand our production leaps and bounds," end quote. Since North Dakota's climate and soil are great for hemp production, farmers say it's an easy crop to grow and it's drought resistant and fetches a premium price. According to Clarence Lobb, a Elgin farmer who's growing 240 acres this year, he said the crops are, quote, "doing well despite the drought conditions plaguing the state, especially compared to my corn and soybean fields. It's not showing any drought stress right now. It's a very nice stand," end quote. So restore hemp out there. That's the end of our hemp news segment tonight, and John Cornett is standing by to bring us a tune. Thanks, John.
I'm going to cover a song by a man named Charlie Lessman over in, I think he's down in South America somewhere right now. It's called "Let's Make the Best of It Now," and I think it fits right now. Did you know the sun will shine one day and everything on earth will melt away? All the oceans rise above the land, drowning every woman, every man. Whoa, let's make the best of it now. We'll be just another asteroid floating through the mind of Sigmund Freud. So many years we've been upon this place. Can you believe the future that we face? Whoa, let's make the best of it now. 'Cause you never know when your time will pass. just what you want to do. And if somebody tries to ruin your day, walk away. Did you notice that the world's so strange? 'Cause our atmosphere's about to change. So many reasons why we kill the trees. Life is passing like a subtle breeze. Whoa, let's make the best of it now. Another chapter as we turn the page. Can we exist within a nuclear age? I know that freedom's heard around the globe. Just where our future lies, well, nobody knows. Whoa, let's make the best of it now. 'Cause you never know when the sky will fall. Maybe the moon will reach the earth someday. We're not the same race that we used to be. Can't you see? Now the next time that you fall in love, just appreciate the sun above. 'Cause the sun is shining on and on. So open up your eyes before it's gone. Whoa, let's make the best of it now. Whoa, let's make the best of it now. Whoa, let's make the best of it now.
Thank you, John. That inspired version of that song tonight. Thank you. Hey, we've got Mr. Rod Pittman, who has come into the house. Good to see you here.
Great to be here. Thank you.
And
my
good
friend.
to have you back yet again, Casper. And
Casper,
so-
good to see you.
Happy Friday.
Thank you. Happy Friday.
So you
to
just
you.
got back from the
Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. And what are you back there doing in our nation's
Wait.
capital?
First of all, did you cleanse yourself? Did you take 3 showers?
Well, you know, it was. If I really had to tell you, I'd have to kill you. But
Okay.
Oh,
well, I
you're
know
part of an
maybe our long-term
investigation.
viewers don't know.
You're part of an investigation?
You're talking
that'd
to
be
the
an easy
Russians?
way to put it. Yeah,
Oh,
to
cool.
the Russians.
Yeah. Dynamite.
Yeah.
For our long-term viewers who may recall, or others, Rod has been the producer of several documentaries, including It's a Normal Life. And what was that other one?
Let's see. Hamsters Plant the
Hamsters
Seed
Plant the
with
Seed.
Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard,
Those
and
guys.
Woody Harrelson.
Aha. So those are a couple videos you can go out there and watch on Netflix or
Yeah,
places.
They were on Netflix, and now you can Google it. They're on Hulu. Got some other stuff on Amazon.
So you've done all this? How come you haven't done a documentary on Paul and myself?
Well, we're working on it.
Who would
but-
fund
and-
such a crazy thing?
Well, you know, you've been around for doing all these. I'm the father of marijuana media. We've been around since they hung Christ on the cross. We know everybody and talk to everybody in the movement. We've done all this great.
We
you've got
have a
great
lot of
archive
HD
vid-
archive stuff
all
here,
the
but
videos in
one
your
of these
archive
days
would make
when
a
we're
great
dead and gone,
documentary.
maybe they'll
Jeepers.
talk
And then I
about
got
it
all
a
these
bit.
audios in my file. You would think somebody clever would tap both of us in the shoulder and go, "Jeepers, let's find out what history we can unearth in your archives." Just saying.
Casper.
For you guys out there, if you have a question for Casper or Rod Pittman or myself, you can call us right here tonight at 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. Boy, I think that was the longest hemp news segment I ever done before. It was like almost 30 whole minutes. I can't believe I talked that long.
It was something else, and I was riveted.
It gave me
was a lot
time
of
to
stuff.
get a buzz with the hookers in the parking lot.
How many bowls did you smoke during that time? I don't know. I just got
There's the
talked
red
a lot.
man.
The red man is in the house.
Yeah.
If you want to come in and see our TV show live in the studio, you can come down here just about any Friday night. We are here doing the show at Portland Community Media. Now it's called Open Signal Portland.
Well, that sounds so highfalutin.
It's pretty cool. It's an open signal.
Oh, jeepers.
open.
It's almost like we've gone
signal.
digital, like we're almost on the cutting edge
Well,
or
we
something.
are. You know, now, right now, not only are we streaming live on Ustream, I think we're also streaming on Facebook, on our Facebook page with over 700 followers, 700,000 followers. That's it.
I was going to
Just
say
700.
700.
1,000 times more than that. 700.
And that's video streaming. You've got to specify that in today's
That's true.
digital
Video
age.
streaming, and you
Yes.
can actually watch us there if you don't have cable. Maybe you are watching us there, and if so, you can call us at 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. So, anything you want to talk about really quick here,
Do you
Ron?
got any new documentaries?
well,
Are you here for reruns?
Let me give you a short story. Obviously, I was in D.C., but a year ago in D.C., my producer friend Doug Ross and I were filing an application for a medical marijuana dispensary in the state of Maryland.
Cool.
And Paul would know more about what is happening in the state of Maryland, but the long and the short of it is that Doug and I really worked hard on developing this application to see if we could get a dispensary. And I won't bore you with the details of what happened. The long and the short of it is that we did not get awarded an application, but our friends did, and they have spent a huge fortune that we did not have to just stay in the game. And the Maryland.
Are they finally breaking even or even making money?
Well, here's the thing with.
So many people think they're going to get rich, only to spend their life savings and lose everything.
Well, and the funny thing about it, or it may or may not be funny, is the thing about it is that, and I'm not hating on the state of Maryland, but they are trying to get their act together to see if they can come forward and get this thing implemented in place. But what happened is we went to file this application, but in the course of it, we wanted to research as much as we could to find out what we could find out about how to give our application the most to see if we could get approved. We didn't get approved, but at the end of the day, we hired all of these consultants to help us see if they could help us get the application. And I won't even.
Wasn't there a politician you could bribe?
Well, and we worked on that as well. But what happened is that when we did not get the application, Doug and I'll be honest with you, we were a little bit annoyed. And so we went back and we thought, well, what could we do? And what was it about the process that we learned as a teachable moment that we could probably pass down to someone else? And the thing of it is no matter how hard we Googled it, we could not find an application as kind of a roadmap to what would be the best way to fill out an application. And with that, we decided to take the application that we put in to the state of Maryland and turn it into a book.
And there you go. I wondered why you were telling us about this drug deal that went bad.
Well, and so I'm on here, I'm pitching documentaries and stuff, but what I'm really pitching is a book, and so we have.
There you go.
We have a book called It's No Secret.
Is it out yet?
It's on Amazon. It's called It's No Secret.
Wasn't there a Jefferson Airplane song that went like
And
that?
that's
It's
what
no
that's
secret.
I think I went a little different than that.
That's
but-
what-
Yeah, they sang better.
That's what we
Grace Slick.
That's what
sings
we
better.
named it after, was that Jefferson Airplane song. And
How
so-
did I know? It's just intuitive.
I'm just saying. And so it's called It's No Secret. Actually, it's called
So then when somebody asks you what's the name of your book, you can be real smart ass and go, "That's no secret."
yeah, marijuana
Right.
marijuana dispensary application. It's No Secret. And so you can go there, look at the actual application and some of the trials and tribulations that we went through in terms of trying to make this whole thing go right.
Were you able to make sense of any of the process and figure out what they're doing and all the hoops you got you going through?
Well, I'll tell you what, in other states it was much easier. In Maryland, and again, God bless them, I'm not hating on them for this,
Right.
but they were apparently in the learning process themselves, and it was such a difficult thing. But again, we hired these consultants to help us, and we paid some pretty stiff fees.
Death by consultants is what you're saying.
Yes.
But if you're
And-
doing it with politicians, you probably should have hired hookers. But that's all right.
Well, and then there
Law,
was
lawyers are more expensive, right?
that. Well, you would know
Speaking of
more.
prostitutes.
You would know more about that than I would.
God
But
forbid.
what we did was we put together this thing with the idea being that people that are looking to get into the medical marijuana dispensary business in both states where it's actively working, and other states that are coming online, that they could go to our book, and anything that was similar that we could find was like $200 a book.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we said, and so our book is, I don't know, if you go there, it's $39.
You can't hawk it. You can't let people know you can buy
It's
it on
no
Amazon, because if you do
secret.
that,
Right.
then you're
You know what?
breaking the policies here at the
No, you
station.
can hawk a book.
Can you? You
Yeah.
can say go to Amazon. It's no secret,
you can
right?
say that. You can't say, hey, come to our medical
that
marijuana
could be good
clinic.
because, like, there's
But
been
you
a lot
can
of
say-
people who have tried that song. I get people calling me up from Indiana going, "Oh my God, we're moving. We're gonna get a place, man. We're gonna grow herb, and we're gonna set up a dispensary. We're gonna get rich." And it's like, dude, and they go, "Can you just like start it for us? Go get our license, and when we get there, we'll just start taking it over." It's like, dude, it's just right. It's not like you just wake up in the morning and go like,
We
get
have a
an
caller
auto license or
who's
something.
patiently
right?
standing by. Let's take that call. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi, I just wanted to comment regarding Uruguay.
Yeah.
That's the
I've been to Uruguay a few times. I went and spoke at the Expo Cannabis, the
Yeah.
first and second one down in Montevideo, Uruguay.
yeah. Well, that what they've done is not the whole story being told really, because people have to keep in mind they had to go against the United Nations something or other international.
Yeah, the Single
what I mean?
Convention Treaty and the United Nations
Yeah.
Treaties on Psychotropic Substances.
Yeah.
So they're
I mean,
they're
that-
trying to implement, both Canada and Uruguay are trying to work within the confines of those treaties. I wrote Ballot Measure 80 back, which was put up for a vote in 2012, specifically to comply with the Single Convention and UN treaties on the psychotropic substances. The laws in Uruguay, though, have been very slow to be implemented. A lot of it was going to set up sales of cannabis through pharmacies for $1.30 US per gram. But most pharmacies haven't opted into that. There are some people who are registered to grow their own, and there are people in Uruguay that are part of a social club that are allowed to band together to cultivate their medical marijuana. So those are operational in Uruguay, but it's been very slow to be implemented there, and it's taken a long time for the licenses to be issued.
Well, and something else that is important, people need to realize, this is a sophisticated technology. You can think of it like that. People need to experiment and discover what variety or works best for them.
Yeah.
Because they're all different. They all do different things. And people need to, try different things until they land on what anybody's going to be able to find what's perfect for them, for their needs.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's important to because they're all different. They all do, what I mean.
Very good point. Yeah, everybody reacts differently to cannabis, and there's so many different components that make up the combined effect, sometimes called the entourage effect, that it
Right.
is takes trial and error.
Yeah. So it's out there. It's just, people need to take advantage of this, technology. It's.
And the good thing is, if you try one that isn't the best for your condition, you're probably not going to get really sick. You'll just get over it pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Hey, there's the hemp rope. We have somebody here in the audience. Go right ahead, Rex. You're in red tonight.
My name is David Rexroad, and I'm a medical marijuana patient here to say that we, the patients, must take the flower power away from the crooked Canadian company named Empower. I urge you to do your research about this hostile takeover of Paul Stanford's business, the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation. So don't go to the old clinic on 18th Avenue in Portland, Oregon. Do not go to the Aurora Clinic on East Burnside in Portland, Oregon. Like I said, I myself am a medical marijuana patient who is not going to just let this happen without taking action for the medical patients like myself by creating an awareness about these no-good frauds making good Canadians look bad. Like I said, we the patients must make a stand for what's right, so spread the word. If you don't have a pen, now's the time to grab one. To get your medical marijuana papers, go to 2712 Northeast Sandy Boulevard in Portland, Oregon on Monday through Friday, 10 to 5. Call and leave a message to set up an appointment at 503-235-4606. Again, that's 503-253-4606. Another 503 number, 503-238-5324. Again, that number, 503-238-5324. Or 1-888-499-8423. Again, that's 1-888-499-8423. Restore medical marijuana by going to the right clinic. That is all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rex. I didn't expect that. I thought I had to tell everyone, don't go to my old business. I just filed a response to the Canadians' fraudulent takeover of our clinic, and I hope to reverse that through the legal process. Right now, I am, even though I've spent $130,000 on my legal defense, my lawyers have dropped me and I'm defending myself. I had to write my own answer to this lawsuit, and I just filed it today. So thank you. I'm acting as my own attorney. Not because I want to, but because I have to. I'm acting as my own attorney. The other day I went into court, and I was there alone by myself. And there were 3 attorneys and 3 paralegals lined up to try to prosecute me. So I'm up against people who are spending thousands of dollars a day to steal my livelihood. So I urge you, do not go to the Empower Clinic, which is at 105 Southeast 18th, because they are fraudulent. I hope to take it back over in this legal action, but time will tell. Anyway.
Now you know how Bernie Sanders felt.
Yeah. You know, we have a video of our esteemed Attorney General, Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions, spouting his poisonous lies. We will come back and discuss this video momentarily. Here it is.
I just realized only half.
Does follow drugs. In the 70s and 80s, we saw so many lives destroyed by drug abuse. And I think the drugs today are more powerful, they're more addictive, and they can destroy even more lives. Young people have their lives destroyed. I, as you know, am dubious about marijuana. If states can pass whatever laws they choose, but I'm not sure we're going to be a better, healthier nation that if we have marijuana being sold at every corner grocery store. I just don't think that's going to be good for us, and we'll have to work our way through that. I see a line in the Washington Post today that I remember from the 80s. This one was, if you smoke, marijuana is a cure for opiate abuse. Give me a break. I mean, this is the kind of argument that has been made out there, just almost a desperate attempt to defend the harmlessness of marijuana or even its benefits. I doubt that's true. Maybe science will prove I'm wrong, but at this point in time, you and I have a responsibility to use our best judgment, that which we've learned over a period of years, and speak truth as best we can. My best view is that we don't need to be legalizing marijuana, and we need to crack down more effectively on heroin and fentanyl and other drugs. And part of the federal leadership will be drug distribution networks, cartels that threaten the very governments of nations to our south, and less money that they extract out of America, it sends to their organizations, less power and less danger they present to their governments and their people, and fewer people that are addicted.
I've heard the video, and I've talked to some of my officers at least, and or some of them, and quite frankly,
He needs to smoke a doobie. And maybe he won't be dubious about cannabis's efficacy in combating opiate addiction. In fact, he should look at the old Eli Lilly and Park Davis cannabis bottles I have that say explicitly they're for breaking the addiction of opiates.
Well, you know, I've said in the past, and this is a perfect example of this, when I said politicians out there who think that medical cannabis or cannabis has no medical value, those of us who know better should send all of those politicians a suppository. And this man should get a lot of cannabis suppositories in the mail this next week or
Or
two.
he should use his head as a suppository.
Apparently he has,
Yeah.
but this might be a real assistance. He might actually realize that there is medical value if he at least tries 1 or 20 or 50 or 100 or so.
Yeah, it's really just outrageous to hear our nation's chief law enforcement officer spouting such ignorant.
Well, he's paid by the pharmaceuticals. He has
That's a
to
good
say
point.
that. He
That's a
has
good
to. And then he's owned by Trump, right? And he
guess
was
so.
appointed by people who want to see drugs stay out, like the prison industry. And
he works with the Russians, right?
Well, I don't know. I don't understand.
He's a Russian plant.
I don't know. That's all. Somebody's investigating.
I don't know.
that.
The
Who's
Russians
I haven't figured out who's investigating
aren't
mine.
nearly as bad as Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions. He's a lot
Don't be
worse.
rushing to judgment. How's that?
A lot worse for our nation than Russia ever has been.
Well, you guys are much more genteel, much more gentlemen than I am, because I just truly feel that this guy is he's not a big man, he's a small man, and I'm as an American, I'm just offended by the fact that he has anything to do with what's going on with our government right now.
Well, I
This
have
is-
found out the hard way. You have to watch what you say, even in jest. You can't ask for anything that you really want to see happen. If you do, somebody might take it the wrong way, and then it gets all out of shape. So, but those who know what I'm saying should know what I'm thinking.
I do.
Okay. How many bowls did you smoke out there, Casper? I don't know.
Hookers?
Dubious. We'll have to get dubious after the show here tonight. We're very dubious of Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions. There's no doubt
baby.
about that. You know, we want to send out our wishes and love to our crew member, Dana Canales, out there who helps in the control room most shows. He just had surgery earlier today, and we hope he can watch us in his hospital room. But even if he can, hey, we are sending out positive vibes for
I'm
your
smoking a joint
healing.
for you.
And we hope to see you here next week or shortly thereafter. So, hey, Dana, I had to say that. So we are just about out of time. We got about 6 minutes left here. If you have a question, or 4 minutes, I'm told. I don't know if we have time for questions and comments. What would you like to say in closing about your book?
Buy it?
What's the name again?
Well, it's the medical marijuana dispensary application. It's no secret. You can Google it. It's available on Amazon. If you have any questions about what the whole process is like and what a real application looks like, it's all right there for you. And the reason we called the book "It's No Secret" is, again, when we went to fill out the application, no matter how deep we Googled it, we could not find an application.
Wow.
Today,
You think by now you would.
well, this is 18 months ago, and so maybe maybe there's a ton of them out there now, but you can certainly go right to the source and look at what an application looks like, and I think that's helpful.
And your movies?
Normal Life, the American Marijuana
Normal Life,
Revolution.
which is without
Revolution.
an A.
Yes.
NORML, like
Yeah.
the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
Correct, and Hempsters Plant the Seed.
Hempsters Plant the Seed.
Yeah,
another good one.
and from what I heard recently, and is that Alex Whiteplume and the work that he's doing up on the reservation.
Yeah, the Sioux
they
Indian
they
Lakota
they are
Nation.
now raising hemp,
Yeah.
And he spent something like 22 years trying to make that happen. So the fact that the American Indian can plant hemp now,
great.
it's a beautiful thing.
I remember the DEA came in and raided his place with helicopters and machine guns that first year, and then they came back and raided a few years after that. But then they just came with sunglasses, shorts, and they realized they weren't. They didn't need all of the paramilitary stuff.
Yeah.
So Casper, tell everyone about Time for Hemp.
Oh, jeepers, we are updating our website left and right. I tell you, Comcast has made it a point to block my website. So if you have Comcast and can't get to Time for Hemp, that's all right. We're moving it. We're rearranging it. We're going to make it available to everybody all around the world. We also have lots of programming on there that you can download for free. Lots of great cartoons, information that you can share with your friends. And we also want you to pass it around to all the politicians that you can. That's why these MP3s are available to you for free. And of course, we always have more fun when you share us with your friends. So the next time you get a chance to sit down and take out some good buds, make it a point to go to timeforhemp.com and check us out. Thank you, Paul.
You are welcome, Casper. And once again, I remind all our viewers, do not go to my old business at Southeast 18th for more information about medical marijuana, industrial hemp, and adult use cannabis. Give us a call at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. And that's it for tonight's show. Mr. John Cornette's going to take us out with a couple minutes of groovy tunes. Tune in next week and help us restore hemp.
There's a train coming, and it's already on the track. People changing, and for some there's no going back. Cannabis is more than just a weed. Cannabis is the tree of life to me. Woo.